The palace has quietly confirmed what royal insiders have suspected for months. Prince George is on a drastically accelerated path. At just 12 years old, he's being prepared for royal responsibilities no heir has faced this young. From protocol to pressure, George's future is unlike anything in modern royal history. George is entering a new era at just 12 years old. Prince George has just turned 12, but insiders say the palace is already shifting him into a completely new chapter, one no royal heir has entered this early. His recent public appearances and internal responsibilities point to a future king being shaped far sooner than expected. At the Trooping the Colour 2024, watchers noticed something different. George wasn't just part of the show. He held himself with a calm, observant presence, standing beside senior royals with quiet confidence. It wasn't a child following instructions. It was a young heir learning the rhythm of duty. According to palace aides, his behavior at events like Remembrance Sunday and the Easter service at Windsor has changed dramatically. While still only 12, George is showing the posture of someone being gradually brought into the fold, not just as a royal child, but as the future monarch of the United Kingdom. Sources confirm the palace is now in what they call a soft launch of Prince George's public role. That means he'll appear more frequently at national ceremonies, charity visits, and even internal briefings where royal duties are discussed. This isn't a full schedule, yet, but it's the first step in a longer plan. Royal commentator Emily Andrews noted, "He's being eased into duty in a way no previous heir has, and it's being done with precision." Historically, heirs didn't begin formal public exposure until their mid-teens or later. Prince William didn't start regular public engagements until his university years. Charles had his first solo engagement at 16, but George is stepping in years earlier, and it's intentional. The reason? This is a different time, between global media attention, shifting public expectations, and concerns about monarchy stability. 2024 to 2026 are no longer quiet years for the royal family. With King Charles's health still under close watch and William preparing for greater leadership, the palace is fast-tracking George's transformation from royal child to public figure. Insiders say this early transition is not just symbolic, it's strategic. The royal family knows that preparing an heir now gives the public confidence for the future. One palace source put it bluntly, "If something happened to Charles or William tomorrow, George must be ready to be seen as more than just a schoolboy." This doesn't mean his childhood is gone. Behind the scenes, William and Catherine continue to protect his privacy, limit his media exposure, and ensure he's still enjoying the day-to-day life of a boy. But the balance is shifting, and what was once quiet preparation is now public transition. As George takes these early steps into a role that will one day define his life, one thing is clear: this is no ordinary royal chapter. This is the start of something entirely new, and no heir before him has faced it quite like this. Next, how Prince George is being raised as both a future king and a normal boy. He's being prepared while still a normal boy. Behind the formality, behind the title, Prince George is still just a 12-year-old, laughing with friends at school, playing football, and doing his homework. But what makes his life different is what's happening quietly in the background, the careful shaping of a future king. According to insiders, Prince William and Princess Catherine made a decision early on. George would have as normal a childhood as possible. That's why he attends a co-ed day school close to home instead of a remote traditional boarding school. He walks the halls like any other student, without bodyguards crowding him or teachers treating him like royalty. But beyond the classroom, a more delicate plan is unfolding. Sources close to the family say light-touch royal training is already in motion. George is slowly being taught about his country, the crown, and what leadership truly means. His parents haven't handed him rule books. They've started with values: kindness, resilience, public service.
Short Pierce.
A royal aide shared, "It's about preparing him for the future without stealing the present." This blend, childhood freedom plus royal preparation, is unprecedented for a British heir. Charles grew up under strict formality. William was caught in the spotlight from an early age, but George is being raised in a world where balance is the goal. He's allowed to mess up. He's allowed to speak honestly. But he's also being taught that his actions, even now, carry weight. That combination of being a boy and a future king is something the monarchy has never navigated quite like this before. It's no longer about shaping a perfect prince. It's about raising a whole person and giving him time to grow before the world expects him to lead. Coming next, how King Charles and the palace have already started formal king training protocols behind the scenes. The palace has started formal king training protocols. What once was quiet preparation has now become official. Behind the scenes, King Charles and senior palace staff have begun formal protocols to prepare Prince George for his future as king, and it's happening earlier than ever before. Sources confirm that since late 2023, George's royal role has shifted from passive learning to active exposure. He's no longer just watching. He's starting to take part. His presence at remembrance ceremonies, state events, and solemn national moments is no coincidence. These aren't just appearances. They are his first steps into kingship. For the first time, George is learning about duty not from a textbook, but by standing among leaders in the weight of silence and history. One palace insider said, "He's being introduced to duty the way only a future monarch can be, through action, not words." Unlike heirs of the past, George is being invited into closed conversations. He's receiving early lessons on constitutional roles, service structure, and public expectation. No pressure, but no delay either. The palace is moving with intent. Why now? Because the future feels closer than anyone once thought. With Charles's health under careful management and William stepping further into leadership, George must be prepared, not in 5 years, but now. This training phase isn't about creating a perfect public figure. It's about building readiness, emotional, mental, and ceremonial. At just 12 years old, George is being guided through protocols that William didn't see until his late teens. That's how serious this is, and it sends a clear message. The monarchy is planning ahead, and the next king is already learning what it takes. Next, the rare royal rule that now prohibits George from traveling with Prince William, and what that reveals about his rising status. Royal rules now say he cannot travel with his father. There's one rule most people don't know, but for Prince George, it just changed everything. As of now, he can no longer fly with Prince William on official trips, and the reason is simple: succession protection. Under long-standing royal protocol, 2 direct heirs should not travel together, especially by air, to protect the line of succession in case of a catastrophic event. For years, William and George were granted flexibility due to George's young age. But insiders confirm that since his 12th birthday in 2024, that exception has been quietly lifted. This isn't just precaution, it's positioning. One senior aide revealed, "He's now at an age where the crown must protect him, not as a child, but as a future king. That means when William travels on state duty, George will increasingly stay behind or fly separately under separate security protocols. It's a logistical move with a deep message. George's role is real now. He's not a symbol. He's the next generation of stability. No previous heir in modern memory has had this rule enforced so young. It's another sign that the palace is not waiting for George to grow into his title. They're shaping him now, step by step. If fate were to shift suddenly, and Prince George were called to the throne as a minor, the monarchy would enter uncharted constitutional territory, and Princess Catherine would be placed in a role no royal mother has held in modern times. Regency laws make his future stand out in history. If Prince George were ever to ascend the throne before turning 18, royal history would be made, and the monarchy would enter a moment of rare constitutional gravity. Under the Regency Acts, if a monarch is too young to rule, a regent must govern on their behalf. In George's case, that regent would be none other than his mother, Princess Catherine. This legal detail isn't just symbolic. It's written into the Regency Act of 1937 and confirmed through subsequent updates. If something were to happen to King Charles and Prince William, and George were next in line before adulthood, Catherine would be sworn in as regent of the realm until her son turns 18. One constitutional expert explained, this would be a historic moment, not only for the crown, but for Catherine as a royal, a mother, and a national figure. No royal mother in modern memory has stepped into such a role. And though this scenario remains hypothetical, the palace has already reviewed the line of succession and legal mechanisms, a quiet preparation in the background of an ever-changing royal future. This layer of responsibility places George's future in a unique category. His path is not just about growing into kingship, it's tied to the potential for constitutional upheaval at an unusually young age. For a monarchy built on centuries of order, the possibility of a child king with a regent queen mother would mark a dramatic and historic shift. He's already taking on public duty like no previous heir. At just 12 years old, Prince George is already stepping into public royal duties that past heirs didn't face until much later. And the shift is not just symbolic. It's unprecedented. In recent months, George has appeared at multiple high-profile events where his presence wasn't just for show, it carried purpose. From joining his parents at the Festival of Remembrance to standing alongside senior royals during Trooping the Colour, observers noted one thing. George wasn't there as a child guest. He was there as a future king. What made headlines wasn't just the suit or the posture. It was the way George held himself. Still youthful, but steady. Still growing, but already aware of the role he represents. Royal commentator Richard Eden called it a major first step in active royal service. And insiders agree, this isn't a one-off. It's the start of something carefully designed. Historically, royal heirs weren't pushed into public duty until their mid to late teens. Prince William began regular royal appearances after turning 18. Charles, too, waited until his later teenage years to take on solo engagements. But for George, the palace is moving early and deliberately. A senior royal aide revealed, he's not being asked to perform. He's being invited to observe, absorb, and gradually take part. That subtle difference matters. Rather than shielding him until adulthood, the palace is introducing George to responsibility step by step, giving him time to understand the weight of duty without being overwhelmed by it. This approach reflects the new era of monarchy. In a world where every public move is recorded, shared, and judged instantly, the royal family knows that preparation must begin earlier. And George, growing up in the full glare of modern media, must be both resilient and relatable. At the Festival of Remembrance, George reportedly stood in for Prince William during a brief moment, a quiet, respectful act that didn't go unnoticed by royal watchers. It marked the first time he had taken a representative position at such a significant event. And it sent a clear message. He's not just learning tradition, he's already participating in it. Insiders say that 2025 and 2026 will see more of this. Carefully chosen events where George appears not just as William and Catherine's son, but as a working royal in training. Unlike the tightly scripted roles of past heirs, George's path is being shaped to blend tradition with approachability. He's not giving speeches yet. He's not opening hospitals or traveling abroad, but he's showing up, and every appearance is another quiet brick laid on the road to kingship. It's early, but it's real, and it confirms what many in the palace have already accepted. Prince George's royal duty has already begun, years ahead of schedule. His education decision could be historic. As Prince George prepares to begin secondary school in September 2026, the royal family faces one of the most symbolic and strategic decisions in his young life. Where he goes next won't just shape his academic path. It could quietly define how he's seen as a modern future king. Traditionally, royal heirs have followed the same route: elite boarding schools, most famously Eton College, where both Prince William and Prince Harry studied. It's deeply tied to royal history, prestige, and legacy. But this time, insiders say William and Catherine are considering breaking away from that pattern. According to sources close to the couple, alternative options, including day schools and less traditional institutions, are being seriously explored. Why? Because they want George to be balanced, grounded, and better prepared for a world that no longer revolves around formality and isolation. A family source explained, they want him to be confident in crowds and in classrooms, not just in castles. Unlike past heirs who were largely removed from regular childhood experiences, George has been raised with a hybrid lifestyle, royal responsibilities in public, but normalcy in private. His current school life includes co-ed classes, team sports, and friendships outside the royal bubble. That approach may now extend into his teenage years. If William and Catherine choose not to send George to Eton, it would break a long-standing royal precedent and signal a major shift in how they see the monarchy evolving. It would say, George doesn't just inherit tradition. He grows with the times. But even if he does go to Eton, the timing and preparation behind that choice will be different. Palace aides have reportedly discussed tailoring his schedule to balance academic life with rising royal duties, something few heirs had to consider at just 13 or 14. Education isn't just about exams for a future king. It's about shaping character, identity, and leadership style. In a time when the monarchy is redefining its place in society, where George studies and how he is seen by his peers matters more than ever. One education advisor involved in royal consultation shared, "This decision could shape how relatable or distant George appears to his generation, and it will leave a mark on how he rules one day." The palace knows this, and that's why this school choice is being watched so closely, not just by the press, but by those within royal walls who understand its long-term impact. Whether it's Eton or somewhere unexpected, George's next step in education will be about more than school rankings. It will be about setting the tone for the kind of king he's being raised to become. Public and palace have confirmed this is a different kind of heir. Inside royal circles and across the public landscape, One truth is becoming undeniable. Prince George is not being raised like heirs before him. His path is being shaped with intention, modern values, and a careful balance of tradition and humanity, and both the palace and the people have taken notice. Sources close to William and Catherine say this approach isn't accidental. It's strategic. The couple is determined that George experience a full childhood, even as the future crown looms ahead. That means limiting public exposure, encouraging emotional openness, and building real-world awareness far beyond royal walls. A palace aide revealed, George isn't just learning how to wave, he's learning how to think, feel, and connect. That's the real training. This contrasts sharply with the upbringing of previous heirs, who were often raised in strict, structured bubbles, surrounded by staff and royal protocol from the earliest years. George, meanwhile, has been raised to understand both who he is and how different the world is now from the one his grandfather inherited. Even public sentiment reflects this. Polls and commentary often point to George as a future king for the modern world, someone who could represent not just heritage, but humility. His warmth in brief public moments, the way he engages with his siblings, his quiet presence at major events, it all signals something new. Observers believe this balance, boy and future king, is key. He's allowed to make mistakes. He's encouraged to laugh. But he's also being taught, gradually, what service means, and that dual-track upbringing is what makes his future so different. Royal commentator Camilla Tominey recently wrote, "What we're witnessing is the creation of a monarch who understands both the crown and the people. That has never happened this early before." Within the palace, this shift is no longer just a parenting choice. It's becoming a model, a possible new blueprint for raising royal children in the 21st century, with emotional intelligence, real-world experience, and public readiness built in from the start. That's why, when people say George will face a fate no heir has before, they're not just talking about titles or duties. They're talking about being raised with heart and history at once, and carrying both into the future. He will be first to face royal duty through global media pressure. No royal heir has faced worldwide scrutiny from birth quite like Prince George. Since his arrival in 2013, every move, from school drop-offs to royal events, has been captured, shared, and dissected across global media. He is growing up in a world where the cameras never turn off. A single expression or wardrobe choice can make headlines within minutes. Social media reacts instantly. Critics, commentators, and fans all have a voice. And George, at just 12 years old, is living under that relentless spotlight. As one media advisor put it, "There's no pause button. His life is public from the start." Unlike Charles, who was raised away from real-time coverage, and William, who was somewhat protected by Princess Diana's fierce privacy instincts, George faces a digital landscape that tracks every step. There's no hiding. Every smile, slip, or silence becomes part of a permanent online record. The palace knows the risks. This is why George's training is being carefully phased to protect not just his image, but his emotional well-being. He's being raised to carry royal duty and public expectation, all while growing up under constant global observation. This isn't just a royal upbringing, it's survival in the digital age. A future king trained for a changing monarchy. Prince George is not just being raised to wear a crown, he's being prepared to lead a monarchy in transition. Unlike his grandfather's time, the world he will inherit is faster, more connected, and more demanding than ever before. Behind palace walls, King Charles, Prince William, and Princess Catherine are united in a clear goal: raising George with authenticity and emotional intelligence, not just tradition. As one senior aide said, "He's not being raised to rule the past. He's being raised to lead the future." From state ceremonies to quiet family moments, George is learning what duty means in the modern world. But more importantly, he's being taught how to connect with people, causes, and culture. Public trust today must be earned. That's why George's upbringing blends royal protocol with emotional grounding. He's not being molded to fit the crown. He's growing with it. With early training, higher visibility, and the weight of global attention, George's path already breaks tradition. But it's deliberate. The palace is shaping a king who can lead in a world that demands more than ceremony. This isn't just another royal generation repeating tradition, it's a transformation. Prince George is stepping into a future filled with global attention, early expectations, and constitutional significance far beyond his years. The monarchy is adapting fast, and George is now the symbol of that shift. With the palace confirming his advanced role, it's clear. He's not just next in line. He's next in action. His journey will redefine what it means to be an heir in the 21st century. And in doing so, George will carry the crown into an era no royal before him was truly raised to face.